Breaking news tonight, Sean Diddy Combs has been arrested in a Manhattan hotel this evening after a grand jury indicted the music mogul.
On September 10, 2024, Sean Combs was arrested in New York City, initially returning to his birthplace in anticipation of federal charges, as noted by his legal team. According to the American government, for decades, Sean Combs, aka Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, Diddy, PD, and finally Love, abused, threatened, coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. To do so, Combs relied on employees, resources, and influence of the multifaceted business empire that he led and controlled, creating a criminal enterprise whose members and associates engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other crimes, sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. As the United States of America versus Sean Combs wraps up its fourth week in court, hip-hop is again at a pivotal crossroads.
Lorianne Gibson, keeping me free. Yeah, also Cassie, holding me down in the dark time. Love.
Man, Puffy just told us to go to the store in Brooklyn and bring him back a cheesecake and walk.
Oh, you put that thing on the wall. So you see how we do it here on the Saturday.
I'm speechless. I am speechless.
Sean Diddy Combs pleaded not guilty to the federal charges of sex trafficking, racketeering conspiracy, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Through his legal team, he has denied allegations of sexual and physical abuse directed at employees and partners. This program contains mentions of sexual abuse and physical violence.
My heart has been broken. I still got that question of like, am I gonna love again?
When I heard the charges, I was interested in knowing, how those charges came about, but I absolutely knew that they were coming based on that video.
The video, captured on multiple cameras, shows Combs assaulting his then-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, in a hallway at a Los Angeles hotel in March 2016. A lawsuit filed by Ventura in November last year and settled the next day referenced actions that seem to match those seen in this video.
I'm Aisha Durham. I am a professor at the University of South Florida, and my broad area of research is looking at representations of Black women and girls in popular media. A part of that discussion is about hip-hop media.
On day 10 of the Sean Diddy Combs trial, former Bad Boy employee Capricorn Clark provided testimony to the 12-person jury as a government witness. Clark had a considerable career in the music industry through hip-hop, working at Def Jam and Death Row Records before employment at Sean Combs' multiple enterprises. In her testimony, Clark stated she was physically threatened by Combs on day 1 of her employment due to a connection with Suge Knight, a Diddy adversary from the 90s East Coast versus West Coast rap beef. At one point during her employment, Capricorn Clark was accused of stealing jewelry and was forced to undergo a lie detector test for hours over several days. Clark acquired drugs for Diddy when he asked and witnessed him regularly stay at hotels with Kimberly Porter and Cassandra Cassie Ventura. When Cassie Ventura started dating rapper Kid Cudi in 2011, Capricorn Clark took Ventura to Best Buy to buy a burner phone to communicate with Cudi, fearful of what might happen if Diddy found out about the relationship. According to Clark, on December 22, 2011, she was kidnapped by Diddy to kill Kid Cudi. She also witnessed Diddy physically assault Cassie Ventura. The following is a transcript from Inner City Press posted from their ex, formerly Twitter account. Matthew Russell Lee, a legal journalist, runs Inner City Press and has been inside the courtroom for the Sean Diddy Combs trial. The official court transcripts will be more accessible to the public after the trial concludes and made different in writing. In the transcript, Capricorn Clark is cross-examined by Diddy's lawyer, Mark Agnifilo, on her relationship with Cassie Ventura. Why did you not get along with Cassie sometimes? In 2008, she got more bravado being his girlfriend the longer it lasted. She thought I was being paid to help her. Objection, reacts. What did you see? She went from being a sweet model to being a feisty girlfriend. Do you think she was talented? She had talent and was very beautiful. But not talented. She was not. I have good taste. Talented to me is Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey. Cassie, she was more of a studio musician. She needed things equalized. Did she perform live? A couple times, not the greatest. Was she a hard worker? At times.
I remember seeing the hotel footage, and I was appalled. I was shocked. I was saddened for Cassie. And I've looked at that video more than once, and every time it is more painful to watch. And the response, I guess the response from kind of the broader Black community, men, women included, was about him. And it was not about Cassie.
Me? Punch her right in the face.
Oh, man.
She fall out, hit the ground. He kicking her, stomping her out.
Oh,
All type of shit.
man.
Then he grab her by her hair and her hoodie and drag her ass down the hallway back to the hotel room.
I'm gonna do that on hotel camera. He tough. You sure it's him?
But it happened in 2016, so it's like,
You sure it's him?
it's definitely him.
Even in her victimization, she is not, she doesn't have an identity, a professional identity, unlike when they are talking about the hip hop mogul.
So we are currently hearing from Sean Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. She walked into the courtroom today in a very tight brown dress that shows off her very late stage pregnancy.
News media may be almost forced to have a more sympathetic or empathetic read of her. I think it could have been CNN or AP that talked about, her outfit and, being pregnant as she's going to the stand. I mean, it was very dramatic in terms of the retelling. And that was supposed to, in some ways, I think they needed some way to humanize her or for us to have empathy for her, not just because she is a woman, she's a person. We shouldn't have to have all these other she's a mother-to-be, she's married.
Hi, my name is Cassie. I moved to New York to pursue, when I was 18, a dream of being in the entertainment industry. My favorite YouTube video would have to be Kid Fury. Yes. Woo! Kid Fury. Should I imitate it? Queen Bee's hair is laid like easy, breezy, beautiful, bad bitches. Beyonce dress is cunt.
Hey, what's up guys? I'm Cassie, and I am here to show you a little bit of how I do my makeup.
Meanwhile, they're also talking about Diddy. He's blowing kisses, making hearts, and they're talking about his long kind of music career. So I think there is a kind of, even in the kind of both sides ism, there is a way in which Diddy gets the benefit of the doubt, so much so that they are in some ways have to build up Cassie for us to even hear her or see her. And I think fundamentally that's sexism 101.
The following inner city press transcript is from May 13, 2025, the first day of testimony from Cassie Ventura. What was his lifestyle like? He had all these assistants. He could get things done. He traveled quite a bit. What's this photo? Sean and I at a strip club in New York. How did Sean's moods vary? Day to day. When it swung, could you describe it? Anger, zoning out. How did it impact you? Greatly. The next thing I knew, I was getting hit in the face. There was also psychological abuse. He'll tell me to watch my mouth, change my face. How would he keep tabs on you? We didn't live far apart. He'll send security to come find me, or a trusted assistant. In 2006, Cassie, the self-titled album from Cassie Ventura, debuted on the American Billboard 200 at number 4 with a little over 100,000 copies. Notable singles on the project included Me and You, Long Way to Go, and Official Girl. Much of the album is written and produced by Ryan Leslie. He met a teenage Ventura after her move to New York City, and along with curating her initial sound, the two also dated. Leslie is 8 years older than Ventura. Compared to R&B contemporaries at the time like Anne-Marie, Sierra, Keisha Cole, Cassie's vocal ability is not the strongest in the genre, but still captivating. Soft and sweet vocals over a non-traditional R&B production, hip-hop influence. After signing jointly to Bad Boy Records and Ryan Leslie's Next Selection, Ventura was allegedly coerced into a romantic relationship with Diddy and reluctantly parted ways with Leslie. This relationship greatly affected her professional and personal life. Along with enduring physical and emotional abuse, her music career plateaued. A mixtape, Rockabye Baby, released in 2013, was her last full project, and she's had some sporadic singles and collaborations over the years. On May 28, 2025, the government called Deontay Nash as a witness. Nash is a celebrity stylist and began working for Bad Boy Entertainment in 2008, particularly styling Diddy and Cassie. She record music? Often. What was your role? I help pick songs. I probably should have been an executive. Objection. Her mixtape, was it ever sold? No, it was put out free, but it did well, a top download. How much of her music was released? I'm being generous to say 10%. Ventura tried her hand at acting with a leading role in Perfect Match, a 2016 rom-com. She also starred in Honey 3, Dare to Dance that year. She is one of many women publicly linked to Sean Diddy Combs. In the 90s, he dated Misa Hilton, and they have one son, Justin Combs. Hilton is a fashion designer and stylist. Her styling work with Bad Boy artists is significant in hip-hop fashion history. Then there was Kim Porter, Jennifer Lopez, and Sarah Chapman, whose paths with Diddy overlap. Lopez and Diddy dated a year after Porter and Diddy had their son, King Combs, in 1998. Before her death on November 15, 2018, Porter was a model, actress, and businesswoman. Shortly after her death, Melissa Kimball wrote for Bustle. To both those who knew her and fans everywhere, Porter was Black Girl Magic before the hashtag became popular. She took the big bravado of the bling-bling era and translated it into a quiet power, energy, and strength. And the sisterhood of support that has come out in the wake of her death is a pure reflection of Porter's warm and kind spirit, as well as her work acting a mentor and guide to young Black women looking to make their mark in a white male-dominated industry. Porter has another son, Quincy Brown, with Albie Shore. Quincy was eventually adopted by Diddy. The last of Kim Porter and Diddy's children are twin daughters, Delilah and Justy Combs. They were born 6 months after their sister, Chance Combs. Sarah Chapman is her mother. Chapman keeps a minimal public profile and might be working for one of Diddy's companies. After Cassie Ventura and Sean Diddy Combs' relationship ended, he was spotted with Lori Harvey and dated rapper Young Miami. Diddy's last child, Love Sean Combs, was born December 10, 2022. Her mother is Dana Tran, and she works in technology.
Within feminist studies always talks about waves. So the first wave, and it's within a US-centric, white-centric context in terms of first wave, second wave, third wave. The first wave in terms of thinking about basically the vote. Second wave in terms of thinking about kind of reproductive rights, Roe. Third wave in terms of kind of working through kind of issues of difference and including sexuality. But each one of those, in some ways, kind of erased Black women's contribution, even though the third wave itself hinges on the understanding of Black feminist thought with terms like double jeopardy, intersectionality, and the like. So you have Black women like Gwendolyn Pugh, for example, who, and Rebecca Walker, for example, who would say, I am the third wave. I'm a woman of color, and I'm talking about the third wave. Gwendolyn Pugh, Elaine Richardson, and others, they use that idea of the third wave to talk about hip hop as well. They were also drawing from work from Trisha Rose and others.
Misogynoir, the hatred of, aversion to, or prejudice against Black women. In 2008, while I was writing my dissertation, I coined the term misogynoir.
So hip hop feminism in hip hop feminist studies, I would say that it forms after Joe Morgan, but really there were a couple of conferences in the early 2000s that kind of in some ways solidified that this is a thing, including the Million Women March movement. So there was a lot of political action that was taking place at that time.
I always say that hip hop has made me a better feminist.
So what it does is it forces us to have the conversation about thinking about issues of inequity, of injustice, and thinking about systemic forms of power. And so what hip hop feminism does is it doesn't let us off the hook to talk about the culture or any cultural product or even a generational construct without attending to issues of power.
But it's funny, you often see that shirt that says you're your ancestors' wildest dreams. I mean, think about it, year of return, we're here at a summit talking about blackness.
The African bourgeoisie is the most corrupt bourgeoisie in the world. In Africa, they seek luxury in the midst of mass suffering.
This group could have visited this country any time, but they chose this year. Ghana is encouraging more descendants of the slave trade to retrace their roots.
I take Quaaludes 10 to 15 times a day for my back pain, Adderall to stay focused, Xanax to take the edge off, pot to mellow me out, cocaine to wake me back up again. And
everybody give a round of applause for Puff, please. Please. Standing ovation for this brother. Please.
Depending on how you come to Diddy, which is hard for me to say because I still say Puffy. So he has had many Prince renaming from, Puff Daddy to P. Diddy to all these other names, but Puff Daddy I still say.
Sean Diddy Combs was born in Harlem but grew up in Mount Vernon, New York. Mount Vernon is a suburb of New York City, and Diddy was raised by his mother, Janice Combs, after the murder of her husband and Diddy's father, Melvin Combs. Senior Combs was a drug dealer connected to Harlem's drug kingpin, Frank Lucas. So from an early age, gun violence became a recurrent theme in his life. The Combs family survived both Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan's war on drugs, and at the end of the 80s, Diddy was a student at the historically black Howard University. In Black American culture at the time, along with the effects of the crack epidemic, it was also the rise of buppies, a term to describe young and upperly mobile black professionals. You see their middle to upper middle class stories play out in films like Waiting to Exhale, The Best Man, and Soul Food. In 2024, Howard University rescinded an honorary degree awarded to Diddy from 2024 after video footage leaked of his physical assault of Cassie Ventura at the Intercontinental Hotel in the Los Angeles area. During cross-examination by Diddy's defense lawyer, Ana Estevallo, Ventura said she had recently accepted a $10 million settlement with the hotel. While attending Howard University, Diddy was a business major but never graduated. On campus, he was a party promoter and intern at Uptown Records. One of his promotions ended in the stampede death of 9 people at City College of New York. Working at Uptown Records, Diddy met his most important mentor, music executive Andre Harrell, but was fired a few years later. Harrell founded Uptown, and the company's older artist roster included Jodeci, Mary J. Blige, and Heavy D and the Boys.
It would not be too far to say that he is the kind of Berry Gordy of Motown, the Berry Gordy of hip hop, in the sense that it wasn't as if hip hop was not mainstream by the 90s, but in some ways, what Puff Daddy Diddy does is that he uses his business acumen that he worked before in terms of A&R and working with Andre Harrell. So he learns the kind of business acumen, but takes that and makes it firmly in terms of hip hop, in a particular kind of hip hop, because before, as hip hop becomes more mainstream, meaning that we'll see it on MTV, we may see it, Billboard Doughboys doing like raps to sell biscuits. So once we see that kind of proliferation of hip hop, it is really, to make hip hop safe for a broader, or dare I say, kind of white mainstream audience.
Whereas I had Heavy D, who was more like a happy, female-loving, uplifting kind of celebratory artist. Puff's Heavy D was Biggie Smalls.
Yeah.
And Biggie Smalls was more like in the streets and telling street stories.
So we have a lot of hip hop that is, we can have street, but let's have some singing so that, mix that with some R&B, and then we can kind of sell it. What Puff Daddy does is that he takes that kind of model, but he anchors it with a kind of what we would call then a kind of ghetto fabulousness. So it is demonstrably street, and it draws from R&B, but an R&B that still has a hip hop focus. So when we hear Biggie with Faith, or Biggie and Mary J. Blige, it is bringing those together. And by the time we have the early and mid 1990s, there is not many. You could go turn on the radio, go to the club. There's not an outlet that you could go to without experiencing some kind of protege or a group that Diddy didn't put his hand on.
And what hotels in New York did you have freak-offs? Trump, Gramercy, Intercontinental, 44th Street, yes. Elsewhere, Mandarin Oriental, Fontainebleau. What names were used? Jackie Star I used, Frank Black. What supplies for freak-offs? Astroglide, baby oil, condoms. Who brought the supplies? Security, Sean's assistants. Which brand of baby oil? Johnson's. How was it used? Sean said, you need to be glistening. The previous was an Inner City Press transcript from May 13, 2025. As noted before, this was the first day of testimony from Cassie Ventura. To understand Sean Diddy Combs' career after his stint at Uptown Records, his name changes through decades are great timestamps. His first aliases, Puff, Puffy, and Puff Daddy, have somewhat sincere origins. Multiple media outlets have cited a 1998 Jet magazine cover story where Combs explained how he got the nickname Puff. When he was younger, he would huff and puff when mad, and the name stuck. His name changes after that, though, were more strategic media rebrands. The name P. Diddy in the early 2000s was a shift from the gangsta rap era of the 90s. Near the end of the decade, Combs' company, Bad Boy Records, was a prominent fixture in black music. Combs began the millennium with bad press and potential jail time because of a 1999 nightclub shooting in New York City. Natanya Rubin maintains that Combs fired the gun that injured her in the face, but Belizean politician and former Bad Boy rapper Shine was sentenced to 10 years in prison for the incident. Afterwards, it was just Diddy in the mid-2000s up to the late 2010s. During this period, Combs reached professional and culture heights to his entrepreneurship. There was the clothing company Sean John, the media company Revolt TV, and the partnership with Ciroc. Hopping on the success of reality television, Combs' Paramount Global Competition series I Want to Work for Diddy, Making the Band, and P. Diddy Star Maker made him a regular character on our screens. Brother Love or Love is his recent rebrand.
But also at that time, which is so weird to say now, he seems like the safe hip-hop producer. He's not the Suge Knight of the 1990s. Again, although affiliated with people who might be doing illicit activity in terms of Biggie and everything, we see him as a kind of the business person behind and managing these otherwise kind of street guys.
Are you going to be hip hop's first billionaire?
Am I? I don't know.
I think he's a mediator, and I think he's still operating as the mediator. I think we became, and I say we in terms of a broader community, became okay with hip hop because we are seeing him as literally being the manager, and he's mediating between kind of the hip hop corporate world, mainstream world, and street world, or the thuggish world. So he is the one who is able to do kind of the deal making between these worlds and able to kind of mediate between these worlds. He still thinks in some ways that he's able to do that. His whole image, and that's why on the stand you had his personal assistant and others talked about how much they were invested in protecting his image, because it is the image of him as being this mediator, as being this safe Black man, that he could not let that bubble burst. If he let that bubble burst, then we might see him like every other Black guy, and it's clear that he wants to be distinct from who others have kind of disparaged.
And we're very, very proud today to open one of many shops to come and to keep growing and evolving our partnership with Macy's, the greatest retailer in the world.
So you see now hip hop becoming in some ways a hip hop Inc. So you have people like Diddy, like I said, Russell Simmons and others who are now saying this is the brand. So Bad Boy itself becomes the brand, and everything kind of, there are different kind of constellations around that, whether it's, him with music, him with, kind of alcohol, Ciroc, like alcohol labels, fashion labels. And so he becomes a kind of brand ambassador in terms of hip hop.
It started out as a basketball match between rap stars, the Heavy D and Puff Daddy charity basketball game benefit.
We got a lot of people here dead in the gymnasium, please.
Because you listen, 7 years ago, I'd have been like, yo, did you hire somebody to kill Pac? But no, you do it like a journalist.
Yeah, no, I mean, we wouldn't even get into nonsense like that. You know what I'm saying? It's nonsense.
Which we never believed, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
So did anyone come to you and say, hey, man, we need you to take this hit for Diddy?
No, I did that out of honor and integrity.
Biggie ain't here, so Big can't give you no receipts. He dead. Craig Mack can't give you receipts. He dead. What are you talking about? Who else? Black Rob can't give you receipts. He dead.
He took one of my heels and tried to throw it at me, and then he like mushed my face and like really hard and made my nose bleed.
When we're getting the testimony, we are seeing that as, Kid Cudi said, like a Marvel supervillain. This dude was just doing evil, but that is not the image that he purported to the kind of broader, kind of white, now consuming, largest consuming kind of component in terms of hip hop products, but also in terms of kind of black community itself.
This inner city press transcript is from May 20th, 2025, and details the testimony of government witness David James. James worked for Diddy as his personal assistant from 2007 to 2009. He worked 20 hours a day and overheard a conversation in which Diddy said, "Kim is my queen, out in LA with my family. I have Cassie right where I want her. She's young and moldable." Was there incident at Mel's Diner with Suge Knight? Yes, I drove the Silver Navigator to get cheeseburgers there. D-Rock said, "That's that motherfucking Suge Knight." He went over and said, "What's up?" Suge didn't recognize him. D-Rock said, "I'm Biggie's boy." What happened next? We noticed 4 black SUVs to different sides of the parking lot. I saw someone hand Suge Knight a gun. D-Rock said, "We gotta get out of here." We drove back to the house. What did you find there? Cassie was crying. Mr. Combs got in the vehicle. I saw 3 guns on his lap.
I am kind of still taken aback at the extent of the violence that he has been allowed to enact on multiple people, including and most intimately in terms of Cassie.
The Sean Diddy Combs trial began on May 12, 2025, but jury selection started earlier. There are 12 jurors, a mix of 4 women and 8 men, all who are from the New York City area. The judges are Arun Subramanian, and the government's prosecution team is led by Assistant U.S. Attorney Emily Johnson. Diddy's legal defense is big and very expensive. Mark Agnifilo is his principal attorney. Agnifilo's wife, Karen Freeman Agnifilo, represents Luigi Mangione. Mangione allegedly shot and murdered United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson last year. Tenny Geragos is also here. Geragos is a founding partner at Agnifilo and Trader LLP. In the months and weeks leading up to the trial, Diddy kept expanding his legal team, and Brian Steele, who represented Young Thug in his Fulton County RICO case, is the latest addition. RICO stands for Racketeer, Influence, and Corrupt Organizations, and like some federal acts, definitely has its flaws. Recently, prosecutors in Georgia have used the RICO Act to arrest and charge activists protesting the Atlanta Public Safety Training Center, aka Cop City. From opening statements on day one, Diddy's defense argued the case is a domestic violence issue rather than the criminal enterprise the United States government is pushing forward. Diddy's family, including his mother and children, have attended court proceedings regularly.
For me, especially after seeing the video, and I did not need to see the video footage in order for me. I mean, this is how the conversation with Megan Thee Stallion and Tory, this is how, well, you know, what's the video? We don't know. That could be doctor. I mean, there was whole conversations in terms of show me the empirical, show me the empirical evidence. So I didn't need to see it, but having saw it, I don't know how we can have these same conversations. I can't unsee and unknow what I know. So yes, I can tell you in terms of Diddy's accomplishments and achievements, but they're all tarnished by the violence that he has committed and exerted on other people.
This program was made possible by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
I'm Sayou Cooper, and this is The Griots, reporting on hip-hop culture through a mix of soapbox editorials, weird commercial breaks, and some very serious guests. When it comes to media coverage of the trial, where are you getting your updates? Is it from legacy media such as ABC News or CNN? Or do you prefer your favorite YouTuber to break down the case daily?
Yeah, I ain't knocking you, my nigga. How was that pussy, though?
I mean, bro, even if it was fire.
Bro, was the pussy good for your family? Let's stop with political shit. We was Harlem time, my nigga.
I came to hip-hop feminism also as a media studies scholar. And as a media studies scholar, we understand that we engage with media in multiple ways. People would say, how can you listen to this music? The lyrics are so awful. And as a media scholar, I can take that to say, we might go to a movie because we like CGI, but we might not like the actor. We might go for the genre itself. So there are multiple ways in which people engage with media, and hip hop as a culture, and even in terms of the genre of music, is no different.
Haydi ka ga tamaha kaga wafo ko inga hima kadam haydi ka cinda yer kuddin cere yer ka nya fo bobo fo bara wo kur hayat na sababu wo kala fay nda yeddin cere yer goynde cere yer kanniye fo akurga hinsa fay dinga kata wo kuddi kada.
I grew up in public housing, and I came of age where the kind of formation of hip hop, or the elements included in hip hop, was all around me. So it wasn't as if I needed to have, music videos, or I needed to listen to something on the radio. But my brother was still is a DJ, so music was all around me. And I considered myself a poet. I could have been an MC, but the beat was throwing me off. I was like, I want to do my own beat. I'm going to do the spoken word. So I started off writing poetry. And some of the first things that I wanted to do was to talk about the community in which I grew up in. And much of the work that I was reading, and this is even in high school, because I started my journalism career as a high school student. talking about popular culture, talking about my community, was always an interest in thinking about working class Black women and girls. A lot of the work that I encountered talked about Black women and Black girls, but they left out a class component. And that was huge in terms of hip hop, because hip hop is a class response to economic exploitation, as well as thinking about racism and heterosexism.
As you approach Bunce Island, it's quiet and calm. But little more than 200 years ago, this shoreline was the departure point for thousands of Sierra Leoneans who were forced onto ships and transported to the Americas as slaves.
I don't think that hip hop feminism dies within hip hop culture, because as long as we have injustice, as long as we have inequity, that we'll have some form of resistance. And hip hop feminism is going to, working off of the words of the late great Bell Hooks, is going to talk about imperialist, white supremacist, hetero patriarchy. So if we're not critiquing those within this system, then we are not doing the work. And that's what hip hop feminism does.
The Griots is funded by viewers like you. If you're really enjoying this episode and would like to support the work of the platform, you can just like, comment, or subscribe.
Yeah, so one of the ways in which we might see Diddy is operating within this idea of Black power is Black power connected to Black capital. And this kind of way of seeing power in terms of the dollar itself is not unlike other movements. So hip hop is not kind of different in that. One of the things that, you know, people detest in terms of hip hop is the kind of gaudiness or the flashiness by which folks are saying that I want money, I have money. But that idea of Black economic power as being a source of power. Like if we have economic power, then you're able to have different forms of influence on other kinds of power.
You work hard and you dig down deep and you stay away from the bullshit, you can be a millionaire.
When we're talking about Black men in particular, we might have two ways in which Black men may be able to exercise that power. And when we're talking about working class men in particular, money is not necessarily that way in which you could exercise it, right? Because you don't have access to that kind of wealth. So the body becomes that. So the hard body becomes that. So showing your physicality, this is a way of exerting power. A lot of the music videos, for example, at the time, and we see it even to this day, you'll have the shirt off, you'll have the white tee. So one way of showing your kind of physical prowess, that physical prowess is connected to sexual prowess.
He said something to me one time, a long time ago, at Chris Lighty's wedding. He told me he'd take me shopping. I looked at him like, what'd you just say?
Diddy is coming in as, again, we're seeing him as the executive. So he is coming in with the kind of economic power. He's the kind of manager of all of these different enterprises. So for Diddy, and I think for a lot of Black men, that economic power is a way to kind of compensate for other ways in which we may not have traditional forms of power, particularly in terms of formal or traditional political power. So economic power can influence political power. And we later see that even with Diddy, with the rock the vote or rack the vote or vote or die kind of campaign. So it's with that money that he's able to then exert influence.
There's no expense being spared. We had a Black billionaires lunch. Yeah. You understand? Right. And we here together and we're going to keep staying together. We getting tighter. That's you know what I'm saying? And united we stand. And ain't nothing else to us. Black excellence.
What I will say is that the idea that capitalism is going to be our liberation, again, coming from a class perspective, boggles the mind considering that capitalism is built on exploitation. And what has happened in terms of hip hop and hip hop studies to some extent is that we have in some ways lost that critique of capitalism, that at its very core, it is built on exploitation and the maintenance of that exploitation in order to hoard, extract, and build wealth in a hierarchical system. And in hip hop, especially in terms of hip hop media, the group exploited were Black women. Black women who were literally on song and in pay, seen as a quote unquote dime a dozen, exchangeable, replaceable, not unlike how we treated Black bodies in the colonial era. And so when I hear and when I see discussions about Cassie and forced sex labor, and even the compensation by other sex workers, the fact you can choose sex work does not there's not a moral judgment there, but it's to say even as an even that being a viable option for you also may suggest something about one's economic standing, that becomes a viable occupation. But forced labor, sex labor, these all have echoes of a kind of colonial era. And in some ways, what Diddy represents, he represents that kind of colonial mentality of how he imagines women of color. I've even seen women say, well, she went back. Why did she stay? Or she was just there. Not understanding how the cycle of abuse, of how that works in terms of, first there's a wooing. And in some cases, we may even say grooming. She was 19. We still call 19-year-olds kids. I know as a professor in college, we still say, oh, those kids.
Now to the federal sex trafficking and racketeering trial of Sean Combs, and today his former assistant concluded her testimony after a lengthy and contentious cross-examination.
As informed consumers, but also if we are dedicated and committed, again, to liberation, then it is our individual responsibility and our responsibility to our collective in terms of community to have that kind of accountability for ourselves. But also, these are things that we can do. Oftentimes we think that, to affect or make change, that it has to be some grandiose event, that I have to join an organization. I need to kind of march in the street. Now, not to say that those things are not important in terms of community and collective action, but we can also make individual changes in terms of, yes, maybe we're not going to consume those things.
Defense attorneys say the woman, who is using the alias Mia to protect her identity, contradicts herself in her testimony, claiming that she was sexually and physically abused, but also expressed warmth towards Combs in text messages.
We don't have a broader conversation, even within Black communities, about how abuse works, even as many of us not only experienced it, but also witness it.
Bonglin, a friend of Cassie Ventura, is on the witness stand right now testifying that the music mogul dangled her over a 17-story balcony.
At every moment, whether it's the kind of emergence of Black Lives Matter with Trayvon Martin, whether it's in terms of George Floyd and the kind of uprising and the kind of broader Black resistance, and this moment, or going all the way back to kind of Mamie Till, Emmett Till, or even the early feminist work in terms of anti-lynching with Ida B. Wells. Black women have always been on the front lines as mothers, as partners, as sisters, as people in the community for Black men. What we have asked what we demand is that you see us, that you hear us.
Singer Dawn Richard told jurors she witnessed Combs allegedly beating his ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura on multiple occasions.
In some ways, the institutionalization of hip-hop feminism, we could lose some of that kind of movement energy, but I'm hopeful. Like I said, I'm encouraged by even the pushback with the Diddy trial. That would have taken months, if not years, for us to have kind of broad public conversation. But there's kind of a swift pushback in terms of the almost a celebration or the demonization of Cassie without any pushback.
Bombshell testimony from Cassie Ventura's mother at the trial of Sean P. Diddy Combs today. She said Diddy threatened to release sex tapes featuring Cassie with male escorts.
So autoethnography, and you broke the words down perfectly, because auto, when we say that, that's referring to the self. Ethno is in terms of culture, and graphia or graphy, that is in terms of writing. So autoethnography together means writing of the self in culture. One of the ways in which I tried to provide a more building off of Patricia O'Collin's discussion of Black feminist thought, when I tried to provide a definition in terms of thinking about hip-hop feminism, I also had to keep in mind that what I was talking about was a U.S. context. But depending on how hip-hop emerges, but depending on how a particular generation kind of comes into being through hip-hop, they may have different experiences. So some of our conversations could be kind of region-based, could be in terms of, again, generation. So I want to imagine that a way of thinking about hip-hop feminism, in the same way that I think about Black feminism, is flexible and responsive to the needs of the people. So hip-hop feminism will be whatever the people need it to be. I'm not sure in terms of how in terms of the trial and the charges will kind of pan out, but I know that this is a critical inflection point in terms of thinking about where Black women are and how we're perceived even within our own communities. And from the kind of public outcry, I think we still have a lot of work to do. So you can probably just find me online at aishadurham.com, or anything related to hip-hop feminism, Aisha Durham, some articles or bad videos in terms of lectures might come up. But the book that uses autoethnography, that talks about media, and kind of tries to draw out what we mean in terms of hip-hop feminism, is my early book, Home with Hip-Hop Feminism, Performances in Communication and Culture. And that's the book that comes after the Homegirls book.
Reporting from the American Empire, I'm Sayou Cooper, and this is The Griots. I wrote and produced this episode. Our theme song for this season is Jaws, produced by Suzuki-san. Our Instagram and other cool stuff can be found on our website. Links are always in the description box. Thank you to the ancestors. Until next time.